The next project on my 1966 Lincoln Continental will be turning the rotors. And in order to be able to turn the original rotors and bring it back to that true authentic self, I'm going to have to prep the rotors to be turned. And that's because the rotors and the hub are connected as one piece. And to prep that rotor to be turned, I now have to remove both the inner and outer bearings and the races that go along with that. And I'm going to do that project today at my brother's shop at Maker Industries. So I'm going to head over to his shop now. Let's go. Okay, we are now here at Maker Industries, which is my brother's shop. It is a two-car garage that has been converted into what is considered a maker shop, which focuses a lot on woodwork, metalwork, 3D printing. And because my garage is nowhere near set up like this, no workbenches at this time as we're converting it, we're now going to use his shop and his tooling to be able to take out the bearings out of the front hubs of the 1966 Lincoln Continental. The goal of today is to pull the inner seal, the inner bearing, and the inner race, as well as the outer race. So we're going to get started on that now. With the inner seal as well as the inner bearing already removed, we're going to clean all of this grease out. So then the next step would be removing both the inner and outer race. To make it a little bit easier to get the inner race out, we're going to heat the outer side of the hub here before hammering out that race. All right, with that now heated up, we're going to flip it over so we could start to take out that race. Now, interestingly, you cannot fit in a bushing or bearing driver tool inside of the opening where the outer race is, because the inner side is much larger. So because we're not going to be able to use that type of tool, what we're going to use instead is going to be a piece of an aluminum as well as hammer, because there's already some grooves that have been made on the inside where the race goes, where you'd be able to hammer against the race. I do not believe that is stock. I think these bearings have been replaced before and there was notches put in because it doesn't look like precision machining. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that part of the project now. A few moments ago, I mentioned that we're going to be using a piece of an aluminum. And just to explain why we're going to be doing that is aluminum is a much softer metal than the material used for the hub. And these hubs are not replaceable. These are not made aftermarket. You can't get these hubs anymore. And so the last thing we want to do is mar the inside diameter or the inner area of the hub. So now it's time to start hammering out this inner race. Everything with the inside bearing is complete. So as you saw, we originally pulled the seal, we pulled the bearing, and then we were able to hammer out the inner race using that piece of aluminum and a hammer. Now, to do the exterior piece, we're not going to be using the aluminum and a hammer, and instead, we're going to be using a bearing and bushing puller and driver kit. So that's going to consist of a couple of different things. So the first thing you'll see here is we have a long handle shaft, as you can see here. We're then going to use a 42 millimeter disc, and that's going to be the perfect size. 43 is just a little bit too large, won't set against the race. 41 is just a little bit too small. So we're going to use the 42. And what this will do is this will set right inside of here, go right up against the race, and that's where we're going to use our nice Lincoln tool, hammer, and we'll be able to get out that exterior race. Now before doing that, I do want to heat the outside of the hub like we did before. So let's go ahead and flip that over. And let's go ahead and heat up that hub. Great. With the outside of the hub now heated up, we're going to flip this over, but we're not going to put it right against the workbench. We're going to space this up. And the reason for that is the amount of area or the space needed to be able to get the race out. We can't have the outside of the hub against the workbench. So we're going to lift that up a little bit so that the race can fall out, similar to the way the inner race did. So we're going to flip this over now and space it out. Great, nice and sturdy, and we can start using the tool to start hammering that out. Making some progress. And done. As you can see, she is now out. All right, we're now back home and the rotors are now prepped to be turned. Now that the seals are removed, bearings removed, and all of the races are removed, we can now send this over to the next shop to have these original rotors turned. Stay tuned for more content of my 1966 Lincoln Continental. Thanks, guys.